It's great.
Now was not the time to try to convince people
No.
that my video was frozen, especially when I had to blink a bunch. I was like, I'll hold really still.
The funny thing is that it did freeze on my end. Oh man, this is great. All
Uh,
right.
hey, everybody. This is the official. This is the worst start to the actual recording in the world.
Okay, so here's the thing. Now I wonder what YouTube will choose for the static image.
I hope it's me doing the blinking. That's what I want. I just want.
Just all right. Ready to do an actual show?
I mean, yes. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the logo just so we feel like there's a cool transition.
All right.
All right, go ahead, Ben. On your go.
Okay. Give me a go, no go for launch. John,
I don't know what that means.
did you say go or no go?
Go or no go.
No, that's Welcome to Azrael Roundtable, episode 302. My name is Ben Bumhofer. It is Friday night. It is party time. It is weekend time. It is happy time. It is John Jagger time. Because he's with me on this very special episode that's not actually special, it's just kind of normal, of Azrael Roundtable. Welcome, John.
Hello, Ben. It is Friday night here in Azeroth, and I'm happy to be joining you at the round table. We're bringing all sorts of weird new energy. It's a new year. It's a new show. We're doing basically the same thing we always do, except you're dancing. You made it blurry. You were dancing so good.
Oh, yeah. So if you are watching this on the YouTube or anything else, Discord's being weird and freezing video.
Yep, Discord's broken. It's not our internet. We're blaming Discord.
Yeah,
Discord, you're on notice.
Audio seems to be working just fine, so we're going to keep on going.
Yeah, but you know what works really well when the video keeps freezing is dancing and other visual mechanics to this podcast.
In fact, this is actually going to be the first and only episode where we sign everything. We're not actually going to speak. We're going to sign.
This episode brought to you by Sign Language.
Yes.
Ben knows hello.
Actually, I know not a whole lot, but my mom was an interpreter for many years.
The only thing I can actually sign is bitch please.
Okay.
I just thought I'd share that. Anyway, Ben, I'm happy to be here. It's the only thing I can sign.
Me too. I'm pretty happy too. You know what? It is. It's an incredible day for me, John. Because, if you've been a listener for the past couple of weeks or months or what, I don't know how long at this point. Usually I'm starting off with like, oh, I'm busy with work or I've been working a lot or something like that. I haven't been able to play too much and that's been happening quite a bit lately. But guess what, John?
What?
Our 1-1 deadline happened. We finished all the super duper extra stuff and I actually have a free and open weekend to myself to do whatever I want.
Oh my gosh, Ben, it's a miracle. It's like a unicorn delivered a butterfly to your doorstep.
On a blue moon.
Butterflies, nature's miracles.
Yeah, I guess.
Ben, that's great. That's great. So you get to play video games again. At the end of the show, when you tell people, hey, follow my stream, I'm going to play games, you don't have to say, one day I'm going to stream again. That day is possibly now.
The day is next week. I'm streaming again starting next week.
Okay. All right. New year, new you, new excitement.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking this weekend to just be all like, bleh, and, kind of, put myself back together again.
Okay. This is the weekend to reassemble, and then next week, back to it, back to the grind.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you mention playing different games, because I played a different game, but it made me think a lot about WoW as I played it. And that is a little game called Vermintide 2.
Okay, I know you said that, hey, I'm playing Vermintide 2, and that game's really awesome.
Yeah. You know what it made me realize, though? What is fantastic about Vermintide 2, and strange. When you really break down what that game is, it's fighting a lot of, let's say, trash.
Vermin?
Yeah, trash.
Okay.
To get to a boss or an objective.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite part is fighting the trash. It's the part I like the most, Ben. I get to the boss and I'm like, all right.
I think there's something wrong with this.
They're gonna do a thing. We're gonna hit them a bunch. It's fine. There will be loot at the end, which is exciting. But the part that I get the most into is like, oh, there's a wave of rats that's gonna take one hit to kill, and they're gonna die and splatter everywhere, and this is the best, and I'm in a sea of things. And I love it.
Okay.
And it was really weird to play a game that, I mean, granted, they are different genres. One is an action RPG light. The other is a, more traditional MMORPG.
Yeah.
They are different games. But it's crazy to me because you would think that the philosophy of, I just want to get to the boss and do the thing and get the loot and go on, would be a universal belief, and it turns out it's not. It turns out I actually very, very much enjoy fighting through the waves and the hordes in that particular game, in that particular style of game.
That's kind of weird.
A little bit,
not
right?
really. I mean, if you think about it, especially if it's like something that dies in one hit, I mean, it gives you that sense of power, the sense of feeling and stuff. And the sense of feeling, you can still feel stuff. But
that's my favorite sense, the sense of feeling.
You know what I'm talking about, though, where it's like you go in and, you're awesome. You just are. It's like when you go into like an old raid and you just do a quick AoE and everything around you just goes bleh and falls down and dies.
Yeah.
It's that kind of feeling. That kind of trash, that's not a big deal. It's the trash when it's just like you just keep pulling and keep pulling and keep pulling. And it's just, you want to get something off the boss. It's something entirely different. Like, I don't know, I haven't played Vermin 2 or whatever it is.
Yep, you got it. You whispered it weird, but you got it.
Yeah, I haven't played Vermintide 2.
Uh-huh.
But, what's the point of killing the bosses?
To beat the level and get loot.
Okay. So it is kind of essentially a similar thing where you get loot off of a boss.
Yeah.
But it's guaranteed at this point, right?
Kind of. Loot in that game is a little different in that depending on what you did over the course of the match and the stage can increase the type of loot you get. There are achievements which award loot boxes tied to like, oh, you did such and such. You get a loot chest from it. There's special contracts and deeds. There's all sorts of stuff. But yes, you're not going to be playing it, kill a boss, and get loot, or complete an objective and get loot there. It's by surviving and getting through the content, you get loot for it. And whether that could be just one box, that could be a bunch of boxes.
But the point is you get loot.
Yeah, you get loot.
Okay. Whereas something with WoW, you have to go through the trash, and then success doesn't solely depend on you.
Right.
And you're not even guaranteed a reward.
Right.
And I think that is probably the biggest difference that you're feeling. You're excited to go through this. If you mess up or screw up or whatever, one, you're not letting other people down. But two, you can only blame yourself, and then you just get right back in.
But I am letting other people down because I'm playing it exclusively multiplayer with 3 other people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, what I will say, another wrinkle to this is the game. So we are still leveling up. So in addition to the loot, there's also XP, which is a reward in and of itself. So it's not like an end game type situation.
Gotcha.
It's in a
so you want to be killing the things because it actually you benefit from it.
Not from killing, because the XP that you gain is for things like finished the match, finish the match with all your allies alive, finish the match holding X number of things. It's none of it is you killed 1 billion rat men, so you get 1 billion XP or anything like that.
Okay.
But it's interesting because it's one of those things where I feel like the two games are not the same game. I don't think WoW necessarily works if you just 100% take it and say, well, let's try and apply everything we see in Vermintide to WoW. But likewise, I think it goes the other way too, but I think they are close enough to where you can say, like, why are these mechanics so rewarding here, but maybe not rewarding here, and vice versa? Like, what are the strengths here? What are the strengths there? Like, Vermintide's talent trees. They've got talent trees as you level up. And much like WoW, they have adopted a very specific, like, one's at level 5, then the next one's at level 10 or 12 or something like that. Like, there's a big gap of levels, and it ends up being like a 5 or 6 tier talent list or something like that. So it actually feels very much like WoW in that regard. And so that's another area where you can compare it and say, okay, well, how am I feeling about this versus how am I feeling about WoW's talents? And it's funny because when I compare those talent trees, sometimes Vermintide feels incredibly outdated. It feels like the old WoW. Like, I look across and it's like, pick this and you'll get 5% more attack speed. And it's like, that's the best option maybe, but that doesn't sound fun. That's not fun to pick.
Yeah.
But then you look later down the list and you see things more in line with what you see as WoW's more current design philosophy, where it's doing this will reset this ability, and it turns out that if you pick that and you combine that with certain loot, now you've got kind of a Diablo system where you've created a build that changes how you play the game. And that all of a sudden is very dynamic and very cool.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny because while you're talking about this, all I can think about is my time with Spider-Man on PS4.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I guess you can call it trash in that game, because essentially there's like a boss maybe like every 20 hours of the game or something. I think there's like, let's see, in the non-DLC there's like maybe 3 boss fights in the entire game.
There's not a lot. I mean, even when the spoilers, even when the Sinister Six get out, there's not a lot of bosses. Like,
yeah, there's like 6.
Well, you fight most of them in pairs, so that's even fewer. But yeah, there's not a lot of bosses. You're right.
Yeah,
most of it is fighting dudes.
So okay, kind of putting that into a similar concept of, and I'm slightly veering this a little bit, but the idea of, you have talents, you get more powerful and everything like that. And in the base game, I think it works really well. It's got a good progression to it. As you're getting more, abilities, as you get more like gadgets and stuff like that, you're getting a couple like, tougher enemies and stuff, but they still have the base ones in there. And, they just throw a mix of things at you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And, as you're getting more comfortable with the game, combat's getting a lot easier. And then they throw a harder enemy at you. It's like, okay, this is okay. And so it's got a good ramp up. Then you start getting into the DLC. And that's when it's like, okay, I'm really good at this game. I've been playing it forever. And then it's like, oh, here's a big giant dude with a chain gun. And you'll just die.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not the progression that we had before. And now there's like people with jetpacks who just, if you're not paying attention, a rocket's coming at you at the same exact time as a jetpack's flying across, as the chain guy's shooting at you. And it's like, this is starting to be a little too much and a little overwhelming. And this is just supposed to be just trash.
Right.
And
Web Blossom doesn't work quite as well as it did.
Web Blossom just doesn't work anymore because everybody's wearing some sort of armor that makes it so that you can't just web them up.
Yeah.
And this gets back to, like, say, the Zool fight in Old Ear. So sorry, I don't remember if you've actually seen it or not, where basically just a whole ton of trash beforehand, and then the fight is just a whole ton of trash.
Yeah, I think you talked about it a little bit as far as like how the fight works and why I would hate it and all of that.
And the thing is like, I get having all the trash there. It makes sense in universe because, there's this big cult leader dude. He's not going to be just standing alone.
Right.
He's got his followers and stuff like that. But at this point, when we're just, we're working on progression of stuff past this, we don't need all those different types of trash to learn, abilities. We know we've beaten this guy before. Much less it takes at least like a half hour to clear the whole thing out. So it's really hard trying to figure out, what the balance is like beforehand for, something that's actually teaching you mechanics and everything like that.
Right.
Versus, okay, we're overpowered enough. We can just go in and AoE these things versus, okay, this is just ridiculous of what's there. And, that's something that I'm really looking forward to in the new raid, is to see how they've taken some of those ideas and those lessons and stuff and like integrated it into the next step.
Yeah, because I think one of the things in your example with Spider-Man, in my example with Vermintide, and then kind of all tying it back to WoW, what we're talking about is power fantasy. And role-playing games are rooted in the notion of the power fantasy. And it's always so interesting because I feel like whenever we talk about this, we hear from people, and I don't think they're wrong, but we hear from people that are like, no, I like enemies to scale with me. I like that challenge to remain present all the time. I want to feel like the world is dangerous and that I'm constantly being challenged. But then on the other side of that coin, you've got people that voice like, no, I'm supposed to be like the biggest hero of the Horde or the Alliance right now. I'm reporting directly to the war chief or the king. Like, I'm the person they call when shit gets real. I'm the one that they're like, we need them. So I shouldn't have this wolf come over and just beat the shit out of me. Like, that's just not how it should necessarily work. Like, that shouldn't be the roughest thing that I encounter in my day-to-day life at this point. At the same time, there becomes a scaling problem too. You still want your players to be challenged. You still want them to have to push themselves, and you can't have every enemy we fight be, a god or, something crazy. You shouldn't feel,
or even something entirely, like worthless.
Right. You think about the seagulls in Legion that were wiping raid parties, and people would immediately make the jokes, geez, these seagulls could have killed the Lich King. And I think in our minds we're supposed to think, well, no, they couldn't. In theory, the Lich King was stronger, and there's a little, like, mind game that you're supposed to play, and that is, like, no, he was still really tough, probably still he would be as hard as he was then now for some reason, even though you're technically stronger. Like, it always gets a little murky like that, for the same reason of you don't want to believe that there's a bunch of seagulls that would have gone over and just beat the crap out of Arthas.
Although, at the same time, I would like to see that comic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just he's sitting on the frozen throne. He's like, "This is why I'm in the cold," like batting away seagulls. Like, I know Arthas is on vacation. He built a sand throne. I don't know.
It looks like a scene out of what's that movie with the birds? That's so awful.
The birds.
No.
Or do you mean Birdemic?
Birdemic. That's it.
Okay.
Where it looks like you can basically see the strings as the birds are just like. He's like and he's just fighting them off.
I would watch that version of ICC though. No, I mean you're right, and like the fact that WoW does have such a diverse player base makes it hard to please everybody, and I get that. And it's one of those things where world scaling turned into something that's we weren't entirely sure how we'd feel about it going into Legion, and as you're leveling and going from zone to zone and stuff, I think it makes sense. But then at like the point of when you're done leveling and like when you're actually progressing through the whole expansion and everything, like I could go back into those Legion leveling zones and dispatch stuff pretty fast. So that's a plus at least. So it doesn't scale fully. It gets to a certain point and then, you should totally outgear it. It's still not a, super duper walk in the park, but at least, you have that, okay, well, I did get better than from when I was first here.
Yeah. And it's so difficult for me to really say where I land on this. And I think probably a lot of people go through this because I love being able to pick where I'm going to go level. Like, that is such a freeing decision that especially in, vanilla, especially in, choosing between Burning Crusade and Lich King, a lot of these decisions on like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Like, having that freedom to choose is so nice, because I've spent a lot of time like jumping in and doing like level 20, because a lot of them have been the unlocked races. But essentially doing that up to 40 or 50 or so, and then I decide I'm going to do something else, or I come back to it, I decide I'm going to play a different version of that character or whatever. And I've had to go through a bunch of those zones, and with the freedom to choose, like, all of a sudden, even though it's not like, I have to choose between 3 zones. I still have a tendency to do Silver Pine Forest every time.
Well, that's because it's good.
Yeah, I just really like that zone. I think they continue to nail it. But like, it wasn't my favorite zone to quest through. Like, you go through and you're like, the questing here not maybe as good as some of the other places, but like, I did Winter Spring recently.
Yeah, Winter Spring's not bad.
And I was like, oh, this is nice. This is a very nice change of scenery. And I really liked kind of going through and doing this. That felt super good to me. Which I normally don't do Winter Spring, because somewhere in the back of my head, I think I knew that Winter Spring didn't see a lot of attention. And you definitely notice it didn't receive a lot of attention. It's like, here's some basic fetch quests and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden it ends kind of with a Nessingwary quest, and you're like, what? It's not even from Nessingwary, but all of a sudden it's like, all right, we need you to kill frost sabers and bears and owls. And then you do that, and then they give you stronger frost sabers, bears, and owls, and then they give you a named frost saber, bear, and owl to kill, and then they're like, congratulations, you beat Winter Spring, and you're like, oh, okay, that was it, great.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like when I was leveling my Nightborn, and I'm all, okay, cool, I'm gonna level through New Desolace. This is gonna be great. And yeah, it's New Desolace with an oasis in the center. That's about it. Everything else is still just horrible leveling of like, okay, you need to fly or to go all the way over here and kill 20 things that, you need to get 20 hooves, and they only drop every 1 out of 5. And oh man,
Desolace was not a lot of fun. I do like the look of that zone still. I don't know why I enjoy that zone so much as far as like visually aesthetic, because it's empty, it's not
like
that
your cold
great.
dead heart.
Yeah, it's got the appropriate name. They gave it the right name. The only thing that I ran into a problem with that is like, eventually, even though I shouldn't, because I haven't read all the new quest text, but like, leveling can get dull, especially when you're trying to power through it. So I'll have something on Netflix, and if I'm watching Netflix or watching a Twitch stream or something like that, I am not reading the quest text. And I got to one of the missions in Desolace where it was like, all right, you got to go kill these things. And I was like, great. So I go running over, I'm on my hunter, I send my pet, I'm like hitting the thing, and all of a sudden my pet dies, and I was like, what happened? And then it hits me, and my health just goes almost down to nothing. I was like, wait, why am I, and then I got killed. Now, here's where WoW's scaling has kind of betrayed it a little bit, is there are things in this game right now that are very much like, they're busted still. I don't know if you remember, but from the last squish, Blizzard has even admitted there are some things that didn't squish properly.
Yeah,
they squished weird. Like, I feel like that guy from Pet Cemetery is going to come out and just be like, sometimes they squish wrong. You're just like, oh no, they did. There are just some quests that shouldn't be as difficult as they are, and you're like, wow, this came out of nowhere. And I assume this was one of those, so I tried it again. And I managed to kill a couple of these things. And I was like, good Lord, this is a gauntlet. Like, this can't be what they meant. And I'm like looking to see if I have a quest item. And I'm like, I don't have a quest item. What am I supposed to do? Do you want to take a guess on what it was?
I want to take a guess, because if it's one of the places in Desolace that I think it is, you had to kill a whole bunch of other mobs to get the item to make the big things like weaker.
No. This was not that.
Okay.
What I had to do was, the guy who gave me the quest I had to, after accepting his quest, right-click him again, and then say, yeah, I'm ready. And then I would then spend the rest of the mission on his back throwing javelins at things with a little army to help me fight.
Good job, John. Good job.
But you know what? Like, they have to know that not everybody reads the quest text.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody knows. And honestly, I did go back and look at the quest text, and people might correct me on this, because I feel this, but I don't remember this. I feel like it didn't say anything about, hey, talk to me when you're ready to go. It was me going back and being like, did I miss something? And knowing enough about WoW to know that another right click on him might do the trick. And then him being like, you ready? It's like, why do I hit accept to your quest? I was ready then. That's when you should have put me on your back.
So basically, the little like helper thing up at the top right, it didn't pop up and say, talk to so-and-so.
Yeah, that's what it should have said. Let so-and-so know when you're ready to go. Instead, it just said, kill this many of this many of this, and this many of this. So I went off to do that.
That's not the normal thing. Not the normal thing. I mean, at least I should say it's not the updated questing versions.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that remembers back to, what I guess we'll now call WoW Classic. And remembers that, hey, back in the day, you read that quest text, or else you were just the asshole walking around the Barrens going, where's Mankrik's wife? And then somebody else would yell, read the quest text. And they'd be like, I did, and I still can't find her. And,
well, I mean, to be fair, it says it's along the Golden Road, and then, like, that's it. And you just have to, like, walk around the road and be all like, okay, is it a dead body over there? No, is it a dead body over there? It tells you pretty
close to where it is. It tells you it's past the bridge. You go past the bridge. There it is. Read the quest text, Ben. You would have found it if you read the quest text. I feel like finding Mankrik's wife is a rite of passage. And, I may not be personally interested in WoW Classic, but I look forward to a bunch of people trying it and having to stumble upon that all on their own.
Well, the funny thing is I was in that zone questing.
Yeah.
And someone was on that quest before I was, and they were asking in general, where's Mankrik's wife? And I asked you so I could help this person. And you're all like, read the quest text. And I'm like, I don't have the quest. Someone's asking.
Yeah. Well, I just want you all to remember that, I did my civic duty, and when Ben asked where Mankrik's wife was, my response to him, a friend of years, was, read the quest text.
Hey, so I knew when I got that quest to read the text.
Yeah. Oh, it's in the text, you say? Okay, I'll read it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something we all had to go through. And honestly, Ben, that's probably why that was my answer to you, is like deep down in my bones, I remember doing the John Travolta meme out in the middle of the Barrens, just I don't and not really knowing where the wife was, and not wanting to be the one to ask, and then just being like, I can't find her. I don't know. And then finally finding her and being like, oh, there it was. Yeah, it is in the quest text. That's the thing, is I think there's a lot of revisionist history with the quest text. I think there's a lot of people who get lost, can't find her, then find her and go, it was in the quest text all along. I didn't do a good enough job reading it. And then somebody says, can anybody help me find it? And then they go, it's in the quest text.
Well, we'll just have to see when Classic comes out, because I'm certain that they don't have new quest text in that.
I'm sure somebody screen capped it. Let's see if I can find it.
Don't worry about it. But okay, so
keep talking, because I want to find this.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of switching gears a little bit. So you want to talk about evolution of quests and questing and stuff like that. As I said, I've actually been able to play a little bit this week. And first of all, I finally got to the choice. So, yay for that. But here's the thing. I was I logged in last night. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get to this before we have the show today so that, it's something I can talk about if it comes up or whatever. And I'm doing the war campaign. I'm on Tiergard Sound, and Nevermore is like, so there's this quest and I have to make a choice about something, but I'm not sure. Are you doing it? And I'm like, I'm doing it right now because I didn't realize that the war campaign was different from the Sarfang stuff. So I'm just kind of like, oh no. And I kind of show her, I'm like, yeah, I'm here and I'm meeting Rexar. She's like, I think that's a different quest. So, finally figured out, it's like, oh, I got to go back and, talk to the ranger lady on the boat and stuff. But I just want to say that something that I greatly appreciate is that, okay, one of the big things that we had problems with Legion, and I mean, we had very few problems with Legion. We both very much enjoyed that expansion. But it was the idea that there were story threads out there that just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm noticing, at least with, what is this, 8.1, is that you've got war campaign stuff going on. So it's like it's continuing that big story thread. But the whole Starfang and other like political game and everything like that, that's actually still going on as well. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, okay, so you wrap up a zone, and from what I can tell, at least on the Horde side, they don't really leave a lot of like loose strings, just kind of dangling out there and stuff like that. So it's like you have your story for your like, not continent, but like island nation. I don't know. And then the overarching story is something that's still going on. And I think that might be a lesson that they learned from Legion. It's like there's so much story that they're trying to cram into this, and it's continuing. And it's been a nice breath of fresh air to be all like, hey, the content that I always like, it's still coming. Now, granted, I haven't played through all of it because I haven't had time, in the past month or so. So It might just be like a tiny little trickle.
We're just now to Ben who can play games again.
Yeah. But I'm really happy that, one, there's like 2 quest lines that I can do. And as well as I still haven't gone back to Darkshore and picked up like the stuff there too. So, they're throwing stuff out there, at least with 8.1. Like hopefully with 0.2 and however many others they have, they just continued this, whole long path of storytelling. And it kind of reminds me of, just the different storytelling takes and stuff that they did with Pandaria, how they really kept trying to push the story of that expansion. And it's almost like if they don't have a big bad, they tell more story throughout the expansion to get to that point. So, with Pandaria, of course, you knew by the end that, Garrosh was going to be the bad guy.
Right.
But the whole expansion was the road to get there. And with Legion, it's like, okay, cool. Who knows? We didn't know that we were going to fight Sargeras or anything, but it's basically, oh, we're fighting Legion.
Right.
With this, yeah, there's the battle for Azeroth going on. Who knows what's going on with the champions of Azeroth and all that stuff. We don't know what the big bad final thing is going to be. But it's just kind of pushing us along, and we're just seeing everything evolve around us. And I gotta say, I'm really digging it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 2 things. The first thing is, here's the quest text for Mankrik's wife.
Yeah.
All right, here's the official quest text. We battled in a small Tauren camp when we were separated. She held 3 of the bristlebacks off by herself, but the odds began to overwhelm us. I led some away, only to see her overwhelmed by newcomers. In my rage, I turned to face my enemies, but they brought me down easily with their vast numbers. I awoke to a Tauren druid tending my wounds. He had come across me on the Gold Road as I fell. Please, mage, find some sign of my wife. So that is the infamous quest text that everybody says, if you want to find her, you know exactly where she is.
I was right. You go along the Golden Road, and then she's just kind of off to the side, apparently around a Tauren village. And if my recollection is correct, the village is a tent.
It's 3 tents, I think.
Okay. Well, that's not a village. That's 3 tents.
A small little.
It's not a village. Thing. A village would be like Terre Haute.
Is it true? Because I don't play enough Hearthstone. is this thing that I'm seeing, did Hearthstone really give her a name and a card? Because, I mean, it could be fake, but I'm seeing a lot of pictures of Nadia, Mankrik's wife.
Remember, there's Mankrik's, like little baby Mankrik in Warlords of Draenor. And you remember there's the quest where he's like a little kid, Mankrik, and you have to like get him together with his future wife.
In Warlords?
Yeah, in the Grand.
I don't remember doing that.
Oh, there totally is, yeah.
Oh, so is that where she gets a name and all that? So
That's my guess.
We knew before Hearthstone came along that her name was Nadia?
Yeah, I guess. I don't remember what her name was.
He has a new love interest if you follow his new quest line. There's not clear if he likes her, but she likes him.
Oh, she dies though.
No, she doesn't.
No, she totally does.
No, she doesn't. When did she die?
He's cursed forever. I'm kidding. I don't know.
Oh, okay. You made me sad because I was like,
I'm just messing with.
Can love bloom on the battlefield?
Yes, the liquid. I don't know what snake you are. Whatever. Yes, Kojima, it can.
Okay. Anyway, that's fantastic. So back to your point and storytelling and this gradual storytelling. I don't know what I like better. On one hand, Legion felt very frustrating because it felt like we knew where we were going. So whenever we weren't focused on it, it felt frustrating. Because it was like, we gotta stop the Legion! The Legion! And then you go to High Mountain and some Tauren are like, what if you got some totems for us? And you're like, okay.
Hey, guess what? We have a black dragon.
And then you go somewhere else and they're like, what if the Emerald Nightmare? And you're like, okay. And then another place and they're like, remember the Lich King? And you're like, okay, but we're supposed to be fighting the Legion. And it got a little frustrating because of that. Yeah. Now, we don't exactly know where we're going. We kind of have a rough idea. It's supposed to be Horde versus Alliance. So there is a level of, and we heard a lot of this criticism early on where people were like, it doesn't feel like it's Horde versus Alliance. It feels like we went to two separate sets of islands and did our own adventure, which is kind of what it was. But at the same time, it is vague enough to where it's like, okay, well, I'm not entirely sure where they're going, so I can't be too frustrated that they're not staying on course with it. What are you doing right now, Ben?
Sorry, I'm trying to keep a cat interested so she's not meowing. The
whole okay.
Well, and I'm just like,
I don't know how it's working for the cat, but I'm thoroughly engaged in whatever it is you're doing. I'm like, what the frick is he doing down there?
She walked over to eat a little bit, so we'll see what happens.
So, anyway, I don't know that they're stepping off of the path as much because I don't know where the path is supposed to go. Are we working up towards Sylvanas as the big bad again, like we were with Garrosh? I don't know. They've kept it vague enough to where it would make sense if they did, but also there's that part of me that's like, surely by now they know that everyone's like, this is exactly Garrosh, and they aren't going to go that way. But maybe that's the twist. The twist is it's still exactly like Garrosh. So
the twist.
Yeah, the twist is we did exactly what you thought we were doing, but then thought surely we wouldn't do.
That would be a little bummer. A little bit of a bummer. But we'll see what happens.
I guess what I'm getting to is in Pandaria, you know, I felt like I was more engaged in learning about the world, and I certainly have been that way. Like, I did not think I was going to care about the Zandalari trolls. And instead I found them fascinating and interesting, and I love them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I was just so into that, honestly. I don't know how people feel about the Kultirans, but I was so into learning about the Zandalari and the trolls and the Loa and everything that was going on there that honestly I was a little frustrated by the Horde versus Alliance focus because I was like, no, I just want to find out about these cool people. Like,
see what's going on. What's up with that?
I just want to do this cool place here. Why can't you guys go away? And now with the talk about, you know, the next raid coming to that place, there is an element that's like somewhat motivating me, where it's like, I gotta protect this place. You guys stay away. This place is awesome, and I don't want you here. But there's also elements of it where I'm like, oh man, that's right. This is Horde versus Alliance story.
Yeah,
I forgot that's where we were going.
I get that. I really do. I mean, one of the best parts about Pandaria, we've talked about it before, is the Valley of the Four Winds. You farm. That's what you're doing. You're learning about the culture and having fun there and everything like that. And then we come to Battle for Azeroth, and yeah, I'm with you like that. I absolutely love the Zandalari. The Blood Trolls, they can have that entire zone. I don't care anymore. I was so tired of them by the time of that, or by the end of that.
Yeah, that can all fall into the pit. I'm done with Blood Trolls.
Yeah, exactly. Just let the whole thing just collapse like it's on a hellmouth, and we just destroyed it or something like that. Because I mean, essentially, it is. If you really want to dig down into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, folks, if you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this is what happens if the Slayer dies. Blood trolls everywhere.
You get blood trolls.
Yeah, that's what happens.
That's how you get blood trolls.
It's like ants. You just don't leave blood out. They'll just spawn.
Anyway. You put some blood on the ground? No, go away, blood troll.
But, yeah, it's one of those things where I really feel, like, defensive about Dulzazar, whatever it's
called. The fact that you know its name so well shows your love.
Dude, it's been a rough week. Anyway. But, it's a really cool place, and I like the idea of, okay, we're defending it. Whereas, back in Pandaria, we attacked our capital as opposed to defended our capital. And getting back to the whole choice with Sarfang and stuff, first of all, I did what I said I would do. I stuck with my queen.
Yeah. That's what I did. High five.
Yeah.
You froze, but I'm gonna assume you gave me a high five back.
Well, it's funny because you froze right before, and then when it shifted, hand right in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Like, oh! But I like the fact that, well, first of all, and I think you kind of mentioned it when we talked about it before, that there's like the huge warning of, hey, by doing this, you can't get some stuff, because it's like, hey, this is the first time we're doing something like this, so you should really be aware that if you choose this path, you be screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very appreciative about that, even though I knew it was going to happen. But I like the idea that, as opposed to with Vol'jin and Thrall going against Garrosh, we have a choice in this map. And I mean, who knows if it's going to play out, further down the road, and if these choices actually matter in the grand scheme of the story and stuff like that. Who knows? That'd be great. But I do love the fact that it feels more like, the game is going with what my character would do, as opposed to me being like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally going against Grosh anyway.
Right.
It's like it's muddy enough, and I hate to say gray area enough, that it feels like it matters. And I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, there are going to be people, and I it took me a long time to find where the happy gray area I wanted to live in existed. I'm not saying this is like the ambiguous gray area that we felt we were promised back when they said, there's going to be villains on both sides, evil is everywhere, moral gray area. I don't think they quoted the episode 3 crawl, but
it's close enough.
But I'm sure they did. But it's not what we expected. We expected something complicated, like maybe Sylvanas tries to invade the tree, maybe Greymane burns it down because he's...
Still think that would have been a great idea.
It would have been a really good story beat and really interesting for his character.
Like, if we were Marvel Comics, we would have a what if Greymane burned down the tree.
Yeah, it would lead to the exact same story, but the Horde would feel better about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's kind of what we were thinking, and the reason we were thinking that is because they kept talking about this morally gray area, which I don't think we really found. I think most people agree that what Sylvanas did is wrong. Where I wound up was, we are in a war against a force that, as far as we know, if they win, is just going to wipe us out. Because
they have threatened that in the past.
They have said that they would do exactly as much. So I'm going to back the person that seems to actually want to win this war, as opposed to the person that gets sad about honor and goes out and stands there and surrenders and hopes he gets killed.
Yeah.
Like,
multiple times. Like, keep in mind about this about Sarfang, everybody who's all, he's the greatest orc in the world. Remember that whole old soldier video that we saw that everybody loved and thought it was great? He was giving up.
yeah.
Then we have a quest line where he gives up. Like, is he just trying to die with honor at this point? That's all he cares about, is he just wants to die?
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. It's an interesting pathos for his character. He's lost his son. He's lost everything. He's seen the Horde, which is the only family he has left, turn into this thing that he doesn't like anymore. And he's given up. And there is an interesting story to be told with someone who's given up, finding new hope, and maybe bringing the Horde back to glory. My only problem is we had an orc leader. We lost an orc leader. We got a new orc leader. We lost the new orc leader. And to just get another orc leader that's very much about honor and let's bring the Horde back to glory is just like, okay, it's just pushing the reset button. It's not interesting to me. It's the same reason why I don't like the new Lich King. They took a character that had a ton of pathos and a ton of interest and intrigue behind him, and they killed him off so that we could say we killed the Lich King, and then they replaced him with a character that felt exactly the same but watered down. Like, he didn't have the same long history. I know he meant more to the Alliance because he was sort of the de facto leader for a while, before Varian came back and all of that, but at the same time, like, he's just not as cool as he was. Like, new Lich King sucks compared to old Lich King. That's just the way it is. And that's how I would feel about Saurfang as the leader of the Horde. He's
basically, they're, like you said, they're hitting the reset button, and it's essentially, it's a brand new day.
Right. Yeah, I see what you did.
Yeah.
You're trying to get me on the Spider-Man argument. And I agree with it, but I don't want to think about it.
Okay.
So that's why I was ultimately like, you know what, Sylvanas is a more interesting story. I'm going to follow this path.
Yeah, and you know what? RP wise, in my head, you know, character canon and whatnot and everything, my monk is with you. You know, if you think about it, Pandarans joined during the whole Shaw thing. They saw what happened with Garrosh and everything, but at the same time, they were there to be all like, oh, so the Alliance is just going to wipe them out? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like the whole idea of, you know, in Alliance players, you're great. I'm just going to put that out there.
This is always going a really good place when you have to be like, Alliance, you're great. We just wanted to remind you you're special.
Yeah. And we like you. We like you guys and everything. But, you know, story-wise and everything, and I know that a lot of people don't agree. Everybody has different opinions about the different factions and everything like that. But from where I see it, where I look at it, is that, you know, and John, you've mentioned it before too, is that we are allowed to do things because the Alliance lets it happen. You know, we're allowed to continue to survive. We're allowed to have this land and stuff like that. When I was going through the Sarfang quest, like, some SI7 agents nailed it for me. That, like, totally just dug right back in and said, hey, Ben, you're making the right choice for this character before I even got to the choice. As you're going through the quest line, like, 3 SI7 agents pop up and attack you. But by mocking you, they say things like, oh, what? You're not in a I forget exactly what it was, but like a really crappy, desolate land. Oh, you're not home. And yeah, that's right. I mean, if you think about it, Silvermoon is in an area of a whole bunch of, like, you know, this undead scar and everything. I mean, it hasn't gotten better. It's not going to, apparently. Ghostlands is just right around the corner. Mulgore is, you know, it's on top of a plateau, and that's probably, I would say, out of all of the Horde areas, like, the best for them. Orgrimmar, it's in a desert. There's no resources around. Why do you think they have to go to Ashenvale for everything?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, the Horde isn't exactly living in a prosperous place in a prosperous time, anything like that. And I think that a lot of the Alliance players kind of take what they have for granted because they don't realize, if you really get into the mindset of some of these characters, and especially some of these factions and races and stuff, they're really struggling. They're really, you know, trying to just, you know, tooth and nail, claw, and get everything together. That's one of the things about what was I forget which book it was, but it was a book when Garrosh was still kind of like he wasn't leader yet, but he was maybe getting into it. It might have been the Vol'jin book. I don't remember.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think it might have been
Yeah.
the lead up to Cataclysm, or maybe the book post Cataclysm.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. It was the Shattering because he
Yeah.
was walking around with Thrall in Orgrimmar, like looking at the fact that they do have to fight like tooth and nail for stuff. They settled in a horrible inhospitable place, and that's kind of what the Horde has lived with. So yeah, I'm up for a change in the status quo. I'm up for something more, and I think it'll be a really interesting story if they continue along this path.
Well, and they even tried to kind of get into that with the storytelling, where they tried to suggest that, like, look, Garrosh was very popular. He wasn't popular with the adventurers. Like, that storyline actually made the adventurers sound like an elitist class in a way. Because it was like, look, you guys go out there, you fight monsters, you have plentiful resources, you make a ton of money from what you do, you always have meat because you're killing stuff all the time. Like, WoW has never made the case that being an adventurer is a rough life. They've made the case that it's dangerous, but
you're immortal. You just keep coming back.
like WoW actually kind of goes a weird way and makes the case that living in Orgrimmar is way harder of a life than being out there and being an adventurer. Because when they talk about how popular Garrosh was, it was like, you guys were out there doing whatever, gallivanting around with the military and doing this and doing that. The people here were starving, and Garrosh came in and gave them food. So you might see an ogre who went mad with power and did something awful. They see somebody who put food on their table and did this and this and this, and that's what made it complicated. And granted, a lot of this stuff is gleaned from books and outside stuff, not exactly well presented in the story. Because, again, we see it from the adventurer's perspective of, oh, Garrosh is a bad guy, we have to stop him. And I don't know, there is some really fascinating stories, sometimes just kind of nestled away in WoW lore, that, for me at least, is the stuff that I'm super interested and compelled by. Like, that notion that, like, adventurers and heroes are an elitist caste, like, keeping the little man down. We come by and we're like, here's a few gold for your trouble, and then we go off on another adventure, and they're like, I don't know how we feed our families.
Buy this troll sweat.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's interesting. And another problem with this sort of storytelling is Blizzard is reactive. That's why we have such a weird inconsistency between leveling Garrosh, who shows up and is like, don't bomb people, and then all of a sudden he drops bombs on people. Like, that's where that comes in, because they do have this story that you can't turn on a dime. Somebody can't say, hey, I think Garrosh should be evil, and they go, oh, okay, let's just rewrite all of those quests where we were kind of pushing him to be a good leader. Or we were gonna get him there, but it was gonna take a lot longer than we intended, which I believe they have confirmed that was the intent originally, was that Garrosh was gonna maybe be the leader of the Horde for a little longer before he went bad, but would get there eventually. And that people didn't like him, and maybe that got pushed up. But I mean, it takes a while to pivot on these things with video games, and oftentimes you can't tell a new story and change what was there before. That's why we still have the weird blood elf experience of Sunwell's gone, it's back, it's gone, it's back, it's gone, it's back.
John, that's called blinking.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest point is especially when they try to pivot from just like fan outrage. I mean, look what happened with Warlords. They thought that they had a lot of great ideas and everything, and when they play tested, like the ideals that they put behind some of that stuff in Warlords, like I could see where they were coming from, like what they were aiming for. But in actuality, when you throw a whole ton of people at a system, you find out where those problems lie. So seeing them like try to change and pivot, I mean, honestly, I really think that that's the biggest reason on why Warlords was. I know that there were 2 patches, but why Warlords was 1 patch.
Right.
And then they're just like, oh, we're scrapping the rest of this and we're just switching over to Legion right now. And granted, maybe it happened like that, maybe it didn't, but that when they were working on Legion, they changed a whole lot of stuff based off of reactions and what they learned from Warlords.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what happened, like you said, but I think it's a fair assessment to say that we got used to a particular pace of expansion content and what to expect from patches and things like that, and Warlords didn't have that. It was much lower, and there was a long drawn out time where it didn't feel like they were doing anything with Warlords. And then we got Legion, and it felt like a really thoughtful, really well thought out, really well crafted product. So whether or not it's how it worked, the perception as a player is, oh, they shifted focus. Again, maybe true, maybe not. But when you see something that felt like it got no attention, immediately followed by something that felt like it got more than normal attention, your brain makes the logic leap there. And we're in a weird time with WoW. I mean, there are people right now running around yelling "dead game," Blizzard's killing WoW, very dramatic things, which is weird for me to hear because I'm definitely not there right now. And I'm one of the most critical people in the world, I feel like, when it comes to WoW. And I don't know what it is about this expansion that just didn't rub me the wrong way that it has for other people. And again,
I'm still in it and having fun.
Even saying that, I completely acknowledge that most of the new stuff that they added for this expansion, I still don't like. Now, granted, I haven't gone back and tried new Island Expeditions since they got changed for the patch.
I will be soon.
I want to. I mean, we did that interview, and that interview left me very hopeful. But it comes back to that feeling of you don't always get the ability to have you don't always get a great chance to make another first impression. And I've had my first impression of what Island Expeditions are, and I didn't like it. And so convincing myself to go in and go back and try it again is a little hard.
Well, and it's funny because I haven't had a chance to do the Darkshore Warfront yet.
Yeah.
And I'm actually excited to try it because, I didn't enjoy the first one too much. But, hey, you know what? Darkshore, it's something new. I'm sure it's going to be very similar in vein and everything. But
it's actually surprisingly different.
Oh, cool. Well, hey, I'm excited to try it out.
I liked it. I don't love it, but I liked it probably more than the main one. But something happened to me going back the last time I did the other one, the original one, Hillsbrad. And it also happened when I did the Darkshore one, and I definitely ended up liking the Hillsbrad version better, but I don't think it's something you can count on, but it made me love the experience.
Okay.
And so I'm going to describe something that I'm sure a lot of people have experienced, and I'm going to say it like it's this crazy revolutionary thing, but this was actually the first time it happened to me. So I was out there, and I was fighting, and I was killing people left and right, and I was helping here, and I was getting wood here, and I was going down to the mine and doing this. And I was trying to be very active on the battlefield. And all of a sudden, my character gets struck by lightning and starts glowing. And I was like, what the hell is happening? And it's like, return to the altar of storms, you've been chosen. And I was like, I have? And so I went back there, and it's like, hey, we're going to give you a super powered buff. You're going to become an official battlefield badass. I was like, okay, sign me up for that. So I became a Super Saiyan, and I went running back out to the battlefield, and just our people, were kind of spread out in gathering, and there were people who were kind of trying to push one of the fronts, and they were kind of getting pushed back. They weren't making a lot of progress. And then here I come riding in, and I'm just like, bring them all to me. And they all come and descend on me, and I'm just fighting everybody off and just doing crazy damage. And I was like, this is so cool. This is amazing. Like, if this happened every time to me, I would be way into this. And it was the most fun part of that battlefield, and I had a ton of fun. I was like, holy shit, this was great. And funny enough, we're coming full circle because it was that power fantasy. All of a sudden, I wasn't some friggin' something you're doing, you know, like going and chopping wood character on the battlefield. I wasn't the champion of the horde in the rock quarry going tink, tink, tink.
Yeah.
I was the person out there surrounded by other players being like, no, follow me. I got this. I will lead you all to victory. And that was very cool. And it's a very cool mechanic. I ended up getting it in the other one, which they do differently. They actually just turn you into a different character. You become either an abomination, a banshee, or something else.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, chat room says that Andy 5x5, you got the Darth Vader Battlefront buff. Yeah, you get to unlock the superpower, and it felt really cool. And so, if this game could simulate more moments of that sort of thing, I would be in those all the time.
Well, let me put it this way, John. I've gotten it too, so it's nothing super new or anything, but it's pretty dang awesome when it happens. But imagine being a healer when that happens. I'm just like, okay. Then I just run and start kicking and punching things because I'm like, I've got a damage buff. I need to use it. And, you know, yeah, I've already talked about how being a healer in there is kind of like useless anyway. So, you know, it made me feel kind of useful. But at the same time, I didn't get the same, like, Super Saiyan run in and just destroy everything. I just got the whole, like, punch,
yeah.
Punch,
I think that's why they did the secondary version, because what you pick between those three things, one's a tank, one's a DPS, and one's a healer. So you can decide what you want to become. Like, and I made the mistake of picking the Banshee, because I was just like, well, of these things, the Banshee is the coolest. And so that's what I picked, and then it was the healer, and I was like, all right.
It's funny because that would be the first thing I'd pick because Banshees are cool. So
I was like, well, shit, I've made a mistake somewhere along the way here. Yeah. So, but I mean, it was still fun. It was still very cool to get to do that and to feel like you're a part of it. And I think you will like the other Battlefront. It's a little less war feeling. It just kind of feels more like you've just got stuff to do more often than not. Like, and it's not a lot of the busy work of like go cut down trees. So it feels a little more active, I guess, but it's not revolutionary. I just think it's probably a better version.
And see, I'd much rather cut down trees than go in and try to just kill kobolds over and over and over again. Because when I go in that mine, I kill a kobold, and then by the time I kill it, another one has spawned and it started attacking too, and I'm just in this endless loop and can't get out unless someone helps me. Not fun.
Yeah, probably not
fun at all.
Probably not the most fun.
But John, you know what is fun?
What?
Doing this show. Yep. You know what's also fun?
What?
Hearing you talk about other stuff. So until next time we have an episode, where can people find you?
Hey, if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Twitter at John_Jagger. That's where I will let you know what I'm up to, what I'm doing, all that sort of stuff. But some stuff that I know I'm going to be doing that I can tell you about right now is talking about Heroes of the Storm on Core, which is the Heroes of the Storm show I do, part of the Frog Pants Network. You can find out more about that at heroesforyou.com. I also do a D&D podcast, not a show about D&D, mind you, a show where we play D&D. Yes. That is also part of the Frog Pants Network. That is me, Scott Johnson, Kyle Ferguson, Kristen Ashton, and Bo Schwartz. We all play D&D. It's a lot of fun. And that's There Will Be Dungeons. You can find out more about that at therewillbedungeons.com and get caught up because we're having a lot of fun. And it's going some crazy good places, so...
It's getting weird. I'm just going to say that. Nash helps.
It's Nash likes. You know what? Nash does what Nash does. Nobody can stop Nash. He's gonna do what he does.
Yeah.
And it usually involves tasting things and.
I will say, you and I talked a little bit about it before. How Kyle just totally nails being a lizard man.
Yeah.
So I the D&D Beyond sale that happened like around the holidays and everything. I went ahead and got the book that has the lizard man in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I read the description. You're right. He nails that perfectly.
He embodies it 100%. It's amazing. It's incredible. That whole group,
a good listen,
just
folks.
doing a good job. I got told at the end of the last session that every time I give a motivational speech, everybody feels guilty, like they got caught by their dad doing something they shouldn't have been doing.
Well, I will say some of the speeches that you do give are basically like putting everybody in their place.
So it's fun. It's very different. I also had somebody on Twitter reach out recently, and they said, man, going from core to There Will Be Dungeons is quite a jump for you. I was like, yeah, it's a little bit different than what I do there. So anyway, check those places out. Like I said, Twitter for more if I do anything extra or above and beyond, or do a stream or something like that. But speaking of once and future streamers, Ben, where can people find you?
Best place to find me actually is also on Twitter. I'm at Ben the Mage. As you mentioned, streaming. I am finally done with my super duper busy schedule from work, which means that I'm going to be starting up streaming again next week. So that means you can finally watch me or not watch me, whatever. It's up to you. Do more with what's that game? The Last of Us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do more with The Last of Us. Probably going to be doing more Ben versus Never. I know that we're going to play through Super Mario Brothers 3 at some point soon. I'm really looking forward to that because that game's awesome. A bunch of other stuff. You can find me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Ben. So if you like hearing me talk about stuff that's WoW related, we're going to do a show with the Ludra called Battle Pets.
Battle Pets.
Yeah. This show, though, I want to talk about stream. We stream every Friday night, usually. Yeah, it's, and we'll let you know if we don't.
They mostly stream on Friday.
Mostly. But the cool thing about that is that you can always find us on twitch.tv/AzerothRT. Friday nights, currently it is at 7 p.m. Pacific. Yeah. If you do miss the show live and want to check us out, you can also find every episode on AzerothRoundtable.com, also on iTunes, Spotify, a bunch of other places that podcasts are found. So make sure to check that out. And of course, follow us on Twitter at AzerothRT. And last but not least, if you have any questions, comments, want to tell us about how wrong or right we are about Garrosh, you can email those to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com.
That's right. And finally, before we go tonight, we always like to thank the people who keep the lights on here, the patrons over at patreon.com/AzerothRT. Big thank you to all of you for what you do. You help make doing this easier and the potential for future products, that's not what I meant to say, projects and endeavors possible. This is not scripted, though it sounds like it, and it sounds like I'm doing a bad job reading it. So, let me go ahead and actually read something. We like to thank the Murloc Club. That's Aaron Somdi, Haster, Jesse O, Jim G, Caleb M, and Sash. Thank you so much for being a part of the Murloc Club. And if you want to join them or any of the other levels of patronage, go to patreon.com/AzerothRT.
Yep. It is the weekend, folks, so go out there, have fun, enjoy yourselves, relax, and be good to each other. Bye, everybody.
We made it to the weekend!
That's where it's ending.
Yay! We did it!
I'm very happy about that. That was a fun episode.